Testament image of God as a shepherd of Israel, or Israel as his flock. They're all over the place. And you get texts of abusive religious leaders as destroyers of God's flock. You get references to faithful human shepherds. You get references to Moses, to David, to the future Messiah. But God appears most often in the Bible as the good shepherd. So when Jesus shows up and says, "I am the good shepherd," he's making a claim. He's making multiple claims. And it's not just, "Oh, how sweet." Let's make a knitted artwork to hang on the wall of Jesus being a shepherd. No, people are like, "I'm sorry, you said what?" And so it's much more in your face. Jesus makes all these "I am" statements in John's gospel. Most commonly you will hear that, "Oh, well, there's 7 of them," such a biblical number. There's actually 8. And one of the "I am" statements is just, "I am." Who else said, "I am"? God. So each one of these "I am" statements, they're putting him into that category of, I'm more than a human here. Okay? It's not just a functional thing, it's an identity thing here. So let's take a look at some of these, and I'm going to ask, we're going to jump through quite a few, and I'm going to ask for volunteers to read them so I can suck down hot tea here and keep my throat from giving out. So if somebody would, who would like to look up Genesis chapter 48? Volunteer? Okay, perfect. Genesis 49. Gene, thank you. Psalm 23. Bob, thank you. Psalm 23. Psalm 28. Terry, thank you. Tawanda, would you look up Psalm 74? Thank you. And we're going to pause right there for just a minute as we turn through those. So what we're going to start seeing is we're going to start seeing texts that deal with God or God's people and the concept of shepherding. So who was it that had 48, Genesis 48? Could you read verse 15 out of Genesis 48, please? The God who walked before with my ancestors, the God who has been my shepherd all my life unto this day. The God who has been my shepherd. Okay, for Jacob, who was his shepherd? God himself was the shepherd. Genesis 49, who had that one? Could you read verse 24, please?
Yet his bow remained steady, and his strong arms were made agile by the hand of the mighty one of Jacob, by the name of the shepherd, the rock of Israel.
By the mighty one of Jacob, by the hand of the shepherd, the rock of Israel. So again, God is spoken of as the mighty one, as the shepherd, as the rock of Israel. It's just kind of ingrained into who he is. This is not a later concept. A lot of people will go, well, it's because God called David, and so because David was a good shepherd, then people started looking at that. It's in the beginning. It's from the beginning. It's in Genesis here. Look at Psalm 23. Whoever found that, if you, okay, just read verse 1, please. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, right? And then it goes from there to keep using shepherd imagery, right? He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside quiet water. Okay, we just take this imagery. David takes this shepherd imagery. P.S. Why would David connect well with the shepherd imagery? Because he was one, right? And so he can see his own profession in the world. And again, we don't have a date on when David wrote this. Did he write this as king? Did he write this as a little shepherd out there waiting for the next lion to whack with a stone and slingshot? Don't know. But he writes it and he connects with that. And so he uses that kind of imagery about God. Thank you for that. Psalm 28. Who had 28? Terry, could you read verse 9, please, of Psalm 28? be their shepherd and carry them forever. So you get this idea of a shepherd who will pick up a sheep that is injured or is lost or is tangled up. I had to do this the other day with one that had horns stuck in a fence. Again, I'm not certain that God calling us sheep is the sweet, cuddly image we have. Sometimes sheep can be pretty stubborn and just dumb. So, and P.S., can't we be stubborn and dumb sometimes too? Yeah, okay, all right, it tracks well. Psalm 74, who had that one? Tawanda? Verse 1.
Why have you rejected us forever, O God? Why does your anger smolder against the sheep of your pasture?
Why does your anger smolder against the sheep of your pasture? Interesting. Again, I will speak with some authority on this subject. I can get kind of angry at the sheep. We've got one. His name is Blue. Blue likes attention. He wants you to scratch his ears. He wants you to come up and just kind of give him a hug. And like he's like right here all the time. It doesn't matter. Like you have to. Here he is. And he just wants you to pet him, and you pet him, you're fine. But the minute you go, wow, what was that noise? Boom! He headbutts you. What? And he's not mad at you. He just wants, hey, you quit scratching my head. I want you to scratch my head. Okay? You get about 3 of those in on one trip out to the barn, and I'm like, kind of want lamb chops tonight. Like I really do. It's just. And so you get this idea here of God who cares for his flock, but because they are being difficult sheep, now he's upset. Again, it's something that you can relate to if you have been there. There's days I can relate to it more than others. But you're seeing we are made in his image, yes? God created emotions and feelings. If we feel it, you can imagine he might feel it too. So this idea that God is frustrated, God is angry because we have messed up. Now the question in verse 1 there is why. The psalm unpacks more of it as to why. Psalm 77, did we get that far? I don't think we got that far. Anybody want to grab 77? Psalm 77, can somebody grab Psalm 78? Mark 79. Nicole 100. Amy? All right, very good. That'll get us through the Psalms. All right, so Psalm 77, verse 20.
You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron.
Interesting. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Who is leading the people? Who's leading the people? You, right? That's God in the subject, right? But how did he lead them? By the hand of Moses and Aaron. So God is the shepherd, yes, but he has under-shepherds. People who work underneath his authority to lead and guide the flock. So we see here that God is shepherd. Yes, he's the one leading them, but he leads through other people as well. And so you start seeing that imagery here. Now, P.S., if he's leading through other people, what does that tell you about the quality of the people? Is it important? I think it's pretty important who God is working through in those times. P.S., were Moses and Aaron perfect? Good grief, no. No. Moses, the first high priest of Israel, is down making golden calves at the bottom of the hill. All right? Moses lets his anger get out of control and disobeys God. And P.S., he's also a murderer. So, again, these are broken people, right? God's only had one perfect person to work through. And he did a lot through that guy, didn't he? Everybody else, there's always a broken element to his work through them. Psalm 78. Who had that one? Verse 52, sir. He led them like sheep through the wilderness. Think about the wilderness wanderings. Was God leading them? Yes, he was. Like literally. Pillar of cloud, pillar of fire. He's guiding them. But he's also doing it through Moses, Aaron, and we also always leave out Miriam. Through Miriam. Micah reminds us of that one very intently in his writing, that the leaders of Israel were the three of them together. So again, we've got this imagery of God leading the people, yes, and yes, he's physically there with them. Yes, they can see him, but he's also working through other people as well. Who had Psalm 79? Verse 13, please. Thank you. So yeah, we the people, the sheep of your pasture. So here it's not only God as a shepherd, there's this reflection that we are sheep in his pasture. We are under his control. We go where he tells us. If he shuts the gate, guess what? We don't go. Now, as somebody who's constantly finding sheep who found a different way other than the gate, right? The concept's right. In reality, though, we'll still find a way to mess it up sometimes. Look at Psalm 100. Who was that, Amy? Psalm, just 100 short enough. Can you just read the whole psalm, please? Because it's one of my favorites.
Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who makes us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations.
Thank you. It's a very short psalm. She read the whole psalm right there. But the whole psalm is this idea of we should worship and we should praise God. Why? Because we are the sheep of his pasture. He is our shepherd. That's the whole premise behind that. He cares for us. And then I'll throw out one other that we won't turn to necessarily. But in Isaiah chapter 40, you end up getting this idea of God is going to start restoring things, bringing people back into his fold after the punishment is paid. And he says he tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers his lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have the young. So again, in Isaiah 40, after all the destruction, after all the punishment of Israel, you still get this idea of God who is this gentle, caring, loving shepherd that's going to watch after his flock and do whatever he can for them. You also get the imagery, and again, if you were here first service, you heard part of it. We'll see if we have enough time today to dive in a little bit more. But Ezekiel 34 is a huge text that deals with Israel's shepherds failing. God himself will be the good shepherd, and he will take care of the people. Again, we may jump over there in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. We also get texts that deal with David as being a good shepherd. In 2 Samuel chapter 5, in verse 2, we end up getting this statement. And this statement references texts in 1 Samuel and elsewhere. Again, we're not looking at every text at all that deals with God and shepherd. We're just hitting some. But in 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 2, we read that in the past, while Saul was king over us, you were the one who led Israel on their military campaigns, and the Lord said to you, you will shepherd my people Israel, and you will become their ruler. So God, the great shepherd, the good shepherd, the shepherd over all, is calling another shepherd to lead the people, and that shepherd is David. Okay? Psalm 78 is a psalm. Again, we often think, oh, David wrote the Psalms. He didn't write all of them, and this psalm is about David. David didn't necessarily write it. Psalm 78, verse 70 says, he chose David his servant, and he took him from the sheep pens, from tending the sheep, he brought him to be the shepherd of his people Jacob, of Israel his inheritance. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart, and with skillful hands he led them. And so you get this idea that, again, David is operating under the authority of God. God is the ultimate shepherd, but David has a role to play in shepherding. So just from that look, we can see that God is the shepherd. God is a good shepherd. God sometimes gets frustrated with his sheep, as all good shepherds do. but God is ultimately caring for and loving and tending and doing what is best for his sheep. Sometimes he appoints vice shepherds, assistant shepherds to help him. Moses, Aaron, David. There's some others that are mentioned by name throughout your scriptures. And then we get to a text, some texts that start talking about a future shepherd that will come. The first one being Micah chapter 5, verse 4. If you want to turn over there, you can. Micah is at the end of the back of your Old Testament. It's right before we start getting into our New Testament. One of the so-called minor prophets. And he's not minor because what he says is not important. He is minor because his writing is relatively short. That's really why it's a minor prophet. So, context matters. I'm going to start at the beginning of chapter 5 of Micah. Marshal your troops now, city of troops, for a siege is laid against us. They will strike Israel's ruler on the cheek with a rod. Again, this idea that Israel's going to be punished. Bad things are going to happen. But you, Bethlehem, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times. Therefore Israel will be abandoned until the time when she who is in labor bears a son, and the rest of his brothers return to join the Israelites. And he will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they will live securely, for then his greatness will reach to the ends of the earth. Who does that sound like? Somebody born in Bethlehem from the tribe of Judah who will shepherd God's people. Interesting, Jesus, right? Now, when you're probably familiar with part of that text because if you've read the birth narrative and stuff like that in Matthew's part of the gospel, he says, as it is written from the city of Bethlehem, right? Where's he supposed to be born? And the scribes are going, oh, we don't know. They dig around for a little bit and they find Micah and go, oh, he's from Bethlehem. Oh, well, great. Well, here, wise men, go to Bethlehem and we'll send, thugs to go clean up. And so that's usually how we think about that. But the text is about how God is going to raise up another shepherd to lead the people, and he's going to do it through one born in Bethlehem. Turn over to Jeremiah chapter 23, please. And in Jeremiah 23, we get a very powerful text, similar to Ezekiel, which, again, we should be able to get to in just a minute. But in Jeremiah, we've got Jeremiah what was Jeremiah's profession? Anybody know besides prophet? Anybody know what Jeremiah's job was besides prophet? He was called a prophet. What was he supposed to do before that? Priest. It's interesting. God starts talking through priests occasionally. So Jeremiah is ready to go, and he is offering these sermons. He's telling these people what's going to happen. There is going to be punishment that's going to be paid. Israel's sins are great. They're not turning back. Jeremiah doesn't want God to do this. God even tells Jeremiah at one point, do not pray for these people. And you get this idea that, Jeremiah, if you pray for these people, I'm going to have to answer your prayer, and I'm going to have to delay this longer. I'm not delaying this any longer. He straight out tells Jeremiah, do not pray for these people. They need to be punished. They need to change their hearts. And as part of that, and as part of that restoration, we get Jeremiah chapter 23. Woe to the shepherds who are destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares the Lord. Therefore, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says to the shepherds who tend my people. Because you have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not bestowed care on them, I will bestow punishment on you for the evil that you have done, declares the Lord. I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them, and will bring them back to their pasture, where they will be fruitful and increase in number. I will place shepherds over them who will tend them, and they will no longer be afraid or terrified, nor will any be missing, declares the Lord. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will raise up for David a righteous branch. a king who will reign wisely and do what is just and right in the land. And in his days, Judah will be saved and Israel will live in safety. This is the name by which he will be called, the Lord, our righteous Savior. And then there's a hyperlink there to later in Jeremiah in chapter 33 when we're talking about this branch stuff. So in Jeremiah, again, we've got this time where God is going to punish the shepherds of Israel because they're not doing their job, and God will put a shepherd over them, one who is a branch from David. He is a shoot from the stump of Jesse, as Isaiah would rephrase it. This idea that from that messianic promise, that promise that David would have one who would reign on the throne forever and ever and ever, that big promise of the Messiah, from that line, I'm going to raise up a shepherd. And he's going to be king as well. It's an interesting one, right? And he will care for the people. But the problem is, the reason that God's doing this is because he has people trusted to be shepherds, and they're not shepherding. They're not doing the job that he's called them to. Okay? All right, Ezekiel 34. I've got time to do this. I'm going to tell you a story about Ezekiel 34. I was asked to speak at a church within driving distance of this place. I won't get any more specific than that. And I had this feeling of I knew what to speak on. I was given this topic, and I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. Really encouraging pat on the back. Yay, yay, wonderful text. And I am in the shower washing my hair. You don't have to be a rocket surgeon to determine that. Don't take very long, okay? And as I'm doing this, I get this overwhelming, like, it wasn't a voice, but it was just this Ezekiel 34. It needs to be Ezekiel 34. And this is the day I'm supposed to speak. Like, I'm getting ready to go speak. And I've already got this sermon all lined out. And I know what I'm going to do. Even got slides for it. Like, I'm done. But there's this Ezekiel 34. I'm going, why? Why? Okay, I'm just going to put it out of my head, right? I find I'm still washing my hair now. It's like minutes have passed. And it's just Ezekiel 34. It has to be Ezekiel 34. And I'm going, what could I possibly pull out of Ezekiel 34 that I need to do this for? Okay? I get out of the shower. Wife comes, checks on me. She's like, you okay? You're in there a long time. Yeah. I've just got this feeling like I need to speak on Ezekiel 34. She's like, well, you know best. And I'm like, apparently I don't. I was going to do something else. So I show up that night, and I'm sitting there, and I'm still looking at my sermon text, and I'm going, and I get up in front of them, and I just kind of stand there for a minute, and I'm like, I don't know why I need to do this. Turn your Bibles to Ezekiel 34. Like, just scratch everything. So I just preached through Ezekiel 34, and basically my sermon was this. If we claim to follow Jesus, if we are representatives of God on this earth, we have a responsibility in the way that we treat others. If you're a shepherd, you better be submissive to the great shepherd. We have to mirror him in all that we do. If you're part of his flock, you better not be mistreating other parts of his flock. That was my message. And I tried to spin it positively, because at the end of it, I said, look, we have a great role that God cares for us. And we have a great opportunity to the community around us. So let's go forth and do that. Now, there was I'll call him a missionary who was there that night. And I had met him several different times. He comes up to me after it was over and he goes, Ezekiel 34, huh? I went, yeah. And he goes, have I ever told you about the time God told me to preach that sermon? I'm going, oh, no. He says, I had my notes prepared for a whole other sermon, and I didn't go into this. Like, I didn't, as far as anybody knew there, I was just preaching Ezekiel 34. He said, I had my notes prepared for a message, and God just laid on me, I had to do Ezekiel 34 in this church. And so I did. And they shut the doors a couple weeks later because they said, our worship, our focus, we're a country club, we are an abomination to God, and therefore we need to dissolve, and another church needs to start in this place. And I'm going, I'm probably not going to get invited back here. And I didn't, because 2 weeks later they closed their doors and they came up to the same conclusion. Now, here I am preaching Ezekiel 34 this morning. Not for that standpoint. What I want you to realize is that God is serious about when you represent Him, when you speak for Him, when you claim to follow Him, you have a responsibility. And He doesn't take that lightly. So look at Ezekiel 34. It starts by saying, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of Man, which, again, we all look at Son of Man and go, oh, Jesus, right? Okay. Ezekiel uses it an awful lot, and it is God speaking to Ezekiel. When He does that, Ezekiel is His spoken mouthpiece. The words of the Lord are coming straight through Ezekiel to the crowd, right? So when Jesus talks to Himself about the Son of Man, He might be tuning into that. He's also tuning into a text that's in Daniel that's a rabbit trail we're not going to run down right now. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to you shepherds of Israel who only take care of yourselves. Now who does that sound like? You remember when Jesus goes and talks to the shepherds of Israel? All the leaders? Woe to you Pharisees, you hypocrites. He sounds an awful lot like his dad, doesn't he? Woe to you shepherds of Israel who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, you clothe yourselves with the wool, you slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You've not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound up the injured. P.S. What did Jesus do when He shows up on the scene? All that, exactly. You have not brought back the strays, or searched for the lost. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. You have ruled them harshly and brutally, so they were scattered because there was no shepherd. And when they were scattered, they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep wandered all over all the mountains and on every high hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searched for them, and no one looked for them. Ooh. Okay. So part of the job of the shepherds of Israel was to look out for those who've wandered astray. To take note, hey, we're missing somebody. To start paying attention to those who are absent and try to reach out and go, hey, are you okay? Look at verse 7. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered, and has become food for all the wild animals, and because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves rather than for my flock. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds and will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock so that the shepherds can no longer feed themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search for the sheep and look after them. As a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so I look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all the places where they are scattered on the day of clouds and darkness. I will bring them out from the nations and will gather them from the countries, and I will bring them into their own land. I will pasture them on the mountains of Israel, in the ravines, and all the settlements in the land. I will tend them in good pasture, and the mountain heights of Israel will be their grazing land. There they will lie down in good grazing land, and there they will feed in the rich pasture on the mountains of Israel. I myself will tend my sheep and have them lie down, declares the sovereign Lord. I will search for the lost, bring back the strays. I will bind up the injured, strengthen the weak, but the sleek and the strong I will destroy. I will shepherd the flock with justice. So you get this idea of God who is going to take Israel's shepherds to task. He's going to point out their shortcomings. He's going to punish them. He is going to take them out of leadership, and He Himself will shepherd them. Got the picture? So when Jesus comes down and goes, I'm the good shepherd, what's He saying to all the leaders He's talking to? I'm here to replace you. And you wonder why they wanted to kill Him. Your job is mine. You're fired. Basically what he's saying. And I'm the one who's going to lead the flock. The text shifts just a little bit, and we get into it in the sermon, and I'm not going to reread it all here, but it's basically the idea that the sheep are mistreating one another too. God's going to judge that. Look at verse 23. I will place over them one shepherd, my servant David. Ding, ding, ding. There's the Messiah language again. And he will tend them. He will tend them and be their shepherd. I, the Lord, will be their God. And my servant David will be the prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken. And I will make a covenant of peace with them and rid the land of savage beasts so that they may live in the wilderness and sleep in the forests in safety. So again, his servant David will be, Messiah will be the shepherd, and through that Messiah he will make a covenant of peace. Anybody else picking up on the gospel language here? It's all over the place in this text. Look at verse 26. I will make them and the places surrounding my hill a blessing. I will send down showers in season. There will be showers of blessings. Anybody remember that old hymn? Showers of blessings we need. Okay, all right, yeah. Now, I sang that an awful lot. And then I don't like the second phrase of it. Mercy drops around us are falling, but for the showers of God, you're not giving us enough. Okay. Sorry, theology of hymns, it's a whole thing with me. Look at verse 27. The trees will yield their fruit, and the ground will yield its crops. The people will be secure in their land. They will know that I am the Lord, and I will break the bars of their yoke and rescue them from the hands of those who have enslaved them. Ooh, yikes. Israel's shepherds are in the context of this. Now, a lot of people would read this text and go, oh, the Messiah is going to come and he's going to fill the name of the government out of here, right? He's going to overthrow the Romans. He's going to overthrow the Greeks. He's going to overthrow the Babylonians. What? Okay? But who are the mistreaters in this whole text? Is it some government somewhere? It's the spiritual leaders of Israel. And here they're equated to as slave drivers. Look at verse 28. They will no longer be plundered by the nations, nor will animals devour them. They will live in safety, and no one will make them afraid. I will provide for them a land renowned for its crops. They will no longer be victims. This is the same kind of language as God bringing the people into the promised land. And then look at verse 30. Then they will know that I, the Lord their God, am with them, and that they, the Israelites, are my people, declares the sovereign Lord. You are my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, and I am your God, declares the sovereign Lord. You will know that I am with you when you start seeing the Messiah do all of these covenant of peace things. Then you'll know that I am with you. And what was that name that Matthew calls Jesus? Emmanuel, right? Which means God with us. And so again, you've got these cycle of prophetic texts in your Old Testament that talk about how there will be a good shepherd, how God himself is going to be that shepherd. P.S. How did John start his gospel? In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word. So how in the world could you have a good shepherd who is both God and the Messiah? There's the story of Jesus for you. He's not just a guy. He's not just a descendant of David. He's also God in the flesh. And again, John does a big deal of unpacking that. So when Jesus gets up and he says, I am the good shepherd, he is unlocking links to so much of your Old Testament. But I think most importantly, he's linking to Jeremiah 23 and more so to Ezekiel 34. That this is an execution of judgment on Israel's leaders. John is the one who has this text, who has Jesus saying these I am statements. He's already gone to the temple and overturned stuff there and said, nope, this is corrupt. And now he's looking at the shepherds and going, y'all are fired. And the reason they want to kill him is not because they're mean, it's that they're threatened. They know what this means. Their power is gone. And if he's telling the truth, that's bad news for them. So let's shut him up so that he can't tell the truth anymore. That'll fix our problem. Oh, he pronounces judgment on the temple. He pronounces judgment on the leaders. Temple is destroyed in AD 70. The Romans come down and level everything. It's not rebuilt. It never will be rebuilt. It's done. It's torn up. And he takes the shepherds out, he takes the leaders out, and Israel never has a leadership structure like that ever again. The end. When God says he's serious about something, he's serious about something. Aren't you glad we followed the Good Shepherd? P.S. Invitation song today, invitation is, are you actually following the Good Shepherd, or are you following something else? More on that in a bit, but it is our time for fellowship, and it's time for me to eat cough drops like they're candy, and we will gather together for worship in about 15 minutes. If you see somebody around here that you're not too familiar with, introduce yourself, talk to them, tell them you're glad you're here, and we'll gather back together.